Hey, Karen, thank you for taking a few minutes to join us. Everybody, Karen is the co-owner at automatedsalesprospecting.com and one of the key people that ends up working with and onboarding customers and managing their campaigns month to month. So, Karen, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Joey. It's good to
Sure.
be here. In your email, you mentioned that you wanted to talk about ASP and some specific topics that you want a roundtable on to give viewers a clearer understanding of what ASP is and how it could help. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. That's right. We're pretty much in uncharted territory here, right? Because automated sales prospecting is so new, and the idea of fully automating a salesperson's job is something that isn't typically thought of in practice. So I want to shed a little bit of light on what we're talking about here. But I think that the first thing we should talk about, Karen, since you do interact with incoming customers so often, is why do people end up transitioning to ASP? What problems are they looking to solve? What objectives do they have? Things like that.
Sure. So people end up seeking out automated sales prospecting, or actually they seek out new ways to improve prospecting in general because the current way they're doing things just isn't getting the job done.
Sure.
Take a look at the smallest professional services company all the way up to the largest technology companies. You'll see that they're always looking for a way to improve their prospecting results, bring in the new business.
Right.
So much so that they're spending 50, maybe 60% of their revenue on marketing and sales. So most of the clients that we work with seek us out because they want to ramp up their prospecting and lead generation or fix the lead generation they have in place that really isn't working for them.
Right. And Karen, what would you say that the companies that are doing lead generation that isn't working today, what are they doing that isn't working?
So every company out there is doing something a little different, but I'd say that it breaks down into two or three main categories. The first thing being they don't have an official prospecting process, meaning they have no guiding principle on who to target, with what message, or at what cadence, all of that. Instead, they're relying more on singular acts of heroism from their salespeople, their digital marketing people, even their like trade show guy, just
Yeah, right.
somebody get out there and hunt and make things happen. And this approach rarely works because if you're relying on the discretion of humans rather than the consistency of a process, and when you do that, rely on the humans, people slip out of the targeting, messaging comes out inconsistent, follow-ups get forgotten, and it quickly becomes a mess.
Yeah. I mean that sounds like a mess, a broken process to me. And especially that heroism approach to prospecting, that's been outdated for so long now, right? So rarely are you going to be able to hunt yourself into an account with a single cold call. So Karen, I mean, naturally, I think next insight that we want to pull from you would be when you do begin engaging with a customer, what's typically the first thing that happens in the process?
Yeah, actually, let me pull up a graphic here on my screen so we can
Okay,
talk through it.
sure.
Yeah, so this graphic here is our order of operations, if you will. And if you notice, operation number one on here is host strategy session for offer selection, targeting criteria, message positioning, and conversion planning. So what will happen is a couple members from our team and the customer's team will get together through Zoom and talk through the strategy of their prospecting campaign. The first thing that we want to collaborate on is understanding the specific offering or offerings that the sales prospecting campaign is for and how that offering helps the customer's problems get solved. Believe it or not, Joey, most of the prospecting executions we've seen have a large deviation in this area. The C-suite thinks they should be positioned a certain way, and the sales and marketing management have a difference of opinion on what's important to their targets. And then the actual people who are even administering the campaigns could use their own
Yep,
method.
yep, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, so most of the prospecting we see out there is missing the key fundamental piece that's going to serve as the cornerstone for all of the communications. The question of why is your offering important or interesting to your target market, right?
Right.
And then from there, we'll go deeper into that target market. We're going to look to understand the ideal company that they want to target and then who in that organization they should be going after.
No, Karen, I think I think you described that well. That's what that first conversation, that first step looks like. After that strategy session is held, what typically happens from there?
Well, here's where the customer gets to take a break.
Hey, there we go.
Right. So then we'll go ahead and hand build the targeted list so we can make sure that we're going after the real decision makers of the companies that we want to target. And I'll make a comment here. I'd say that one of the main advantages of our campaign solution is our extensive experience and research that's been put into list building. Our parent company is a sales training and recruiting firm that's been building these lists for 15 years. So when sales teams are usually prospecting at the wrong level of a company, that just won't be an issue with us because our bread and butter is getting those targeted lists of the real executive level decision makers in your targeted companies. So, and from there, we'll grab the data, anything from phone numbers, emails, physical addresses, so on. And then comes the communications and automation. And so, Joey, you're really the best person to speak to that. Can you address that piece?
Yeah, sure. So, let's first say that the objective of all of this whole automated sales prospecting campaign is to get the customer noticed by their target market. We know that we have an offering that could help them improve their business outcome, but now the trick is just capturing their attention and driving interest in that offering. So we'll look at how to message them on each channel, and you'll see what these channels are as you go around this graphic, from LinkedIn to email to voicemail, direct mail. And I like to say, okay, if we can get in the inboxes for each one of these channels enough times, then the prospect is going to eventually know who we are. That's what cold prospecting is, right? That's how it's done. The key is, how do we get in front of them without badgering them? So this is going to be a mix of recommendations about how to improve the customer's business. It's going to be educational resources, industry trends, information about your product, requests to set up a conversation, all that good stuff. So we have a couple formulas and workflows we can use to build that out, but ultimately between these channels, we're going to be shooting for 20 or 30 unique outbound messages that get delivered to the prospect about how you can help them and positioning you as an expert in your area. So, once we have that messaging down, we'll set up the automation sequence so that the LinkedIn connections get sent out automatically. The LinkedIn messages get sent out. The email messages get sent out automatically. Voicemail, direct mail, all of that. And all of that's getting delivered on a predetermined cadence designed to get their attention. So really, the way I like to think of this at the end of the day is automated sales prospecting. What it is it's the world's best and most consistent salesperson without the labor cost.
Yeah, I really like that description. It
Thanks.
really is a very efficient and digitized salesperson. And when we look at salespeople and the sales process with our customers, we ultimately end up saying, really, what more can a salesperson do? They can call, email, direct mail, and LinkedIn message real buyers of their market.
Exactly, Karen. That's what automated sales prospecting is designed to do. Mimic the communications and the efforts of a salesperson. Work just like a hungry cold caller with more efficiency and less cost, right? So, yeah, I think, Karen, I think we did our job here of giving an overview of what ASP is. Is there anything that you want to mention about ASP before we close this out?
Well, no, not an ASP itself, but I would just like to say one more thing to those out there watching this video.
Okay.
You don't have to be overly reliant on current account management. We're just seeing people are pushing their current customers so much, too much, to try to bring in revenue right now, to the point where you're potentially creating friction in those relationships. New business, new accounts, these are the things that will always set us free. So let's make sure we're looking beyond what's in the pipeline today and making sure we build that pipeline for tomorrow. And let's do that using prospecting automation instead of our valuable people.
Yeah, beautifully said, Karen. I mean, being overly reliant on your existing customer base due to COVID-19 and these other circumstances it really puts strain on that relationship, and new business, new account, new penetration is what's going to allow us to ultimately all grow. So, Karen, thank you. You've been great on this interview. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Joy, for having me. It's been a great conversation.
All right,
Thanks.
take care.
Bye.